Living with celiac disease or food allergy can feel incredibly isolating.
They didn't understand how I felt. They didn't really care about how I felt.
It's a daily battle that not everyone sees in a world that doesn't always
I
understand.
was gaining weight all the time, even though I was so active.
But it is also a journey of discovery where science and a passionate community stand right behind you, helping you move from just surviving to truly
Social
thriving.
Llama, not a restaurant or bistro. This is my house.
Your story is powerful, inspiring, and it's absolutely worth sharing.
What if I brought all of these gluten-free businesses that I'm finding together?
Welcome to Life Without Gluten. We continue in the season with Lia, whose celiac diagnosis took over a decade. Her long road to answers may sound familiar to so many of you. If you're new here, I'm Masha, the one in a white sweater. I hope these stories help you feel seen, supported, and understood.
So, Lia, I wanted to ask you, how did you realize that you had a gluten, something going on? Every time you ate gluten, you kind of had a reaction. Do you remember the first time?
I don't remember the first time because it looking back on it, it was probably since birth. I've been told before that there are 3 types of grains you're supposed to introduce to babies.
Okay.
And I believe it's rye, barley, and rice or something. And I would not touch the rye or barley.
Oh.
The third one, not a problem.
Okay.
And that's as a baby. Like
So literally, when mom would try to give it to you, you'd be like, nope.
I wouldn't touch it. And then growing up, it always became a battle because I didn't like pasta, didn't like spaghetti, I didn't like a donut, right? Or if my mom gave me a donut, I would eat the top of it, so the sprinkles and the icing, and lick it off and give it back to her.
That is insane.
Right, as a child, or when she would make a sandwich for me to go to school, and most kids will leave the crust but eat the middle. I would take everything off, eat the inside, and send her back the bread. Looking back now, those were signs in the beginning, and talking with my mom now, it's things that hindsight's 2020. Looking back at it, she can see that now. It wasn't probably until I was around 15, 16 when being gluten-free became a fad that I started piecing it together a little bit. Like, I really did not like it. I really did not, nothing made me feel good. If we had spaghetti, even the smallest amount of spaghetti noodles would sit heavy in my stomach, and I would be sick for days.
Like, what kind of symptoms would you have?
Back then, it was a lot of brain fog. And again, this is all hindsight looking back at it. At the time, I had no idea. Or without going into too much detail, like my menstrual cycles were way off base. Everything, I was gaining weight all the time, even though I was so active, right? My family doctor kept coming back to my mother going, she's got to stop eating this, this, and this. And my mom going, she doesn't. I was just never interested. Cakes, any of that, I just did not want it, did not want to eat it.
Yeah.
If someone had given me a cupcake like this, I would just eat the icing and then move on and give it back.
It's crazy to think about.
And
So at that point, did your mom have any idea at all? Did she have any clue or any thought or anything that would lead her to believe that this might be gluten?
at the time, no, because it wasn't a thing, right? 20 years ago, nobody knew what celiac was. Nobody knew what a gluten allergy was. Nobody knew what being gluten-free meant, other than some people were starting to do it because it might be a weight loss thing.
Right.
Now it's become a much bigger deal, and it's been studied so much more. So now it all kind of starts to make sense.
Wow, that is amazing. Do you recall maybe? So how long did it take for you, basically, to actually get diagnosis, to get into the doctor's office to get diagnosed?
Initially, so it goes back to I started piecing it together myself at 16.
At 16, yeah.
And then I cut it out myself and just said, this is not making me feel good. I don't want this.
Yeah.
And I cut it out in all areas of my life.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I lived my life. So I went away. I was I did exchanges, all that. By the time I got in to see an actual doctor who finally got me diagnosed, I was 20.
Wow. So
But that was not necessarily on the healthcare system of taking so long. That was purely like I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I was living my life, doing my own thing. But even after getting that diagnosis at 20, and that was after getting very, very sick while I was in university, because universities were not accommodating at that point yet, is then I went away again. And when I came back to Canada about 5-6 years later, they couldn't find the diagnosis again. And my family doctor at the time, and even now, because my family doctor is from a small town, like we still see each other, she still is hesitant to believe it because she's very old school. It doesn't make sense to her. So it took me probably until 2022 to finally get into a celiac clinic and get an official diagnosis that I've now been able to keep track with and continue on. And now I have a GI that'll do all that. So overall, almost 15 years.
10 years. That is insane to think about, right?
But, and again, for a lot of people, it is the healthcare system, and they're slow to react to it, and they'll test for everything else. And they did do that to me too when I was 20 in universities. They tested me for everything else. I remember being in the cancer clinic for every kind of cancer they could try and think of, or I had to do bone marrow tests and all this because they were trying everything else.
Any other examples you could provide that might be helpful for the audience? Like anything else that was like, I don't know, any deficiencies maybe they thought they might have?
Deficiency, yeah, I've anemic, so low iron, low B12, low vitamin D. I wasn't intaking any of that, so any supplements I was taking to try and counter that was just in and out.
Because it wasn't absorbing.
It wasn't absorbing, and nutrition from food wasn't absorbing, right? So I was deficient everywhere, which then led to I'm sick all the time.
Right. Now let's maybe, because it's a good point you're bringing up. Talk a bit about maybe what celiac actually means, because I think not a lot of people actually know what that means, and maybe they think it's like a gluten-free lifestyle choice. You know what I mean?
Lots of people think that. No,
So maybe talk a bit more about
celiac is a disease. It's a autoimmune disease. Autoimmune being your body doesn't react to the things it's supposed to, and your immune system is triggered and in a way that it shouldn't be. So in
the allergen, basically, right?
I wouldn't even call it an allergen. No, because we want to separate that, because the gluten allergy and celiac are different things. For celiac, it's my body sees gluten and it sees the gluten that gets kind of stuck in my intestines in a way, and then my body will attack my own intestines.
I see. Okay.
Because that's the simple way to say it, or the simple way I understand it is my body's like, oh, there is a problem here, and we're going to attack, and they attack your own intestines, which is characteristic of autoimmune diseases. And there are many, many autoimmune diseases, but celiac is one of them, and that's why it's different than a gluten allergy.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, because I think it's important to know. So someone with celiac, for example, we are here in a lovely cafe here, but you have to be careful in terms of ordering food, right? Because of the cross-contamination. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mentioned the cafe we're in now, which is a fully vegan, plant-based, and theoretically should be a place where it's allergen and intolerant safe. So something like this place where it says gluten allergy friendly is telling me that it's not celiac friendly, right? There's no dedicated anything like that. There's no dedicated fryers. There's no dedicated like that. They don't have a separate table that they'll do stuff to avoid the cross contamination. Now, good for us. We walked in and they have a collaboration going with my favorite gluten-free bakery in the city. So yay for me, right? Yay for me. So I get to have one that's 100 from the bakery that's 100% gluten-free, and the only possible cross-contamination might be the handling of it in between when it comes out of the box to the server goes on the plate. All right, that would be the only real opportunity for cross-contamination.
How hard is it? Really? Because, like I'm gluten intolerant, so I cannot imagine being celiac. How hard is it to get into restaurants, sort of, around the city?
Mm-hmm. It's hard in the beginning when you have to get comfortable advocating and asking the right questions.
I love that. I think say that again. Advocating for yourself.
Right, it's advocating for yourself. It's going into a restaurant and looking at it, and you might be looking to see what the options are. For example, generally the safe option for me is going to be a plate of nachos, but I still need to double check that they're not deep frying those tortilla chips with the wings, right, and or with the battered fish. Or a safe bet might be a salad, but what brand of salad dressing are they using? Or is it homemade, right? It's asking the right questions based on what I've decided to eat. So a lot of it is preemptively looking at places, preemptively getting online, looking at their menu, kind of deciding what might be tasty and I might like, and then deep diving. So it's not so much that it's hard. There's no last minute, no spontaneous.
Plan, right? Plan like all times, essentially, yeah. Which is a difficult piece, yeah.
Yes.
Do you, can you take me back to that moment, maybe if you can think of like what it felt like to get a diagnosis? Can you talk a little bit about that, like specifically?
Well, the first time,
Yeah.
so when I was first diagnosed in 2015, back when I was in university, it was finally a little bit of relief, just because I had now spent a majority of my school year in and out of the hospital, in and out of the cancer center. And that's, doing the cancer scare is not fun.
Especially when you're a teenager, oh my God.
And I was by myself, right? And so I spent a lot of time sitting in that cancer hospital, and everybody around me is, they're couples or they're people with their support, and I'm just sitting there kind of twiddling my thumbs by myself. Now, luckily for me, it was a student hospital, so, there was a nurse there, and he was cute. And he'd always be checking my blood, and we made some good friends. There's a little bit of relief of just, okay, now I can move on and carry on, and now I have something with me that I can turn around and say, here's what I'm dealing with, here's what I'm going on. But it also explains other things, right? A celiac diagnosis as autoimmune disease explains the other autoimmune diseases that crop up, right? Because the side note there is autoimmune diseases generally come in pairs.
Okay.
Right? So if you have...
Elaborate a bit?
Oh, I can, but it might take a while. But in between all this, they also diagnosed me with a blood disorder.
Okay.
And the blood disorder, which is also another autoimmune disease, where my white blood cells attack my red blood cells. And it lowers my platelet count, which leads to severe bruising. At the time, I'm in remission now with it, but at the time, if I got a paper cut, it would bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed. And that was the thought, or the theory behind it, is that was purely because of the damage being done before I was diagnosed with celiac, has now led to further things, right? So that was the second one that cropped up. And the damage done to my internal organs had kind of led that way. From there, also in 2020, I was then diagnosed with diabetes as well, which all tend to go hand in hand, right? Celiac and diabetes are very common together.
I actually did not know that.
It's, again, because your body's not absorbing nutrients properly. What it is absorbing is sugar. And your body starts to go haywire. So those are often either the diabetes comes first and then celiac, or celiac and then diabetes. And it could be in a perfectly healthy person. Now, I was prone to it due to family history, but I was already pre-prone to diabetes. But it's, again, the damage from the celiac from a lifelong. After that one, and we kind of got all that handled, then the next one popped up of liver failure.
Okay.
Right, which is also considered an autoimmune disease, and it just keeps going. And all the damage done from the first 20 years of life of not really understanding has led to being so prone to these other things. And then the last one that came up is sarcoidosis, which is a severe autoimmune disease. And it's probably, at this point, like celiac is down here now for me, whereas the sarcoidosis is up here. Sarcoidosis is, the best way to describe it is it's a running inflammation or running infection. And it just goes from organ to organ to organ to organ, and it crops up anywhere. So we found it first in my lungs, but now it's disappeared out of my lungs, and then it popped up in my neck. And it just, things started swelling up, and then it went away, and we couldn't find it for the longest time. And then my eyes started going, which is leading to the vision loss.
So it's basically an ongoing inflammation that pops up. It can pop up at any time, kind of anywhere. Right?
Anywhere, anytime. There's no predicting it. So it went to my eyes. It destroyed the optic nerve in my left eye, and it progressed some of my hereditary eye issues like glaucoma and cataracts, which my grandmother had, but it progressed them so severely. Now I'm losing my vision, and then it disappeared from my eye. Like, it's not there anymore. There's no signs of it there anymore. And then it popped up in my ovaries, right? So, and it wreaked havoc there. So I'm at a point now where I cannot have children because my ovaries are total. And now it's popped back up in my neck, and my neck is kind of swollen again here, but there's nothing we can really do about it. It just kind of keeps going. All we can do is react to it.
Yeah.
And there is no cure for it. And that was, again, it's a direct result of the damage done from celiac, leaving me prone to these other things that have cropped up. Now, this one came a lot from my time in China and breathing in the pollution there, but it's all directly related. Yeah. Yeah. In your 20s, you're invincible, right? So.
Of course. Yeah, you want to party and all those things. Did you happen to do that, or was that how was that?
Well, yes.
It's up to you how much you want.
Well, I'm trying to think of the best way, because I spent most of my early 20s in China, which you would not logically think is a good place to go for celiac, and it's not.
Okay.
But I don't recall in my 4.5 years there, I don't recall getting sick as in I had eaten gluten kind of sick.
Wow, really? I think that might be surprising.
It might be surprising, but it also may not be logical, because I was invincible and I was doing a lot of drinking. So what I might chalk up as a hangover, or I've had too much to drink, could have been a gluten reaction I just wasn't seeing. Which again comes down to just being 22 and the world's your oyster, and I was at a point where I was like, I can't deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. I just want to do normal things.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about how your family and friends, or family and friends, whichever word, reacted when you sort of.
So this one's interesting, because in terms of my family, my mother, she was always very strict with, you eat what I put in front of you. I'm not making 2 meals. I'm not doing any of that. And we battled and battled and battled for years and years and years about food. So once the diagnosis finally came out, or I finally got that official diagnosis, it was like a flip switch. And she immediately started researching and how do we replace this to make this work. And she's actually quite good at it now.
Nice.
She really jumped on it really fast to go, okay, how do we solve the problem?
How do we move forward?
And my mother's very practical. She's not an emotional person, very practical. And so it was immediate, okay, how do I adjust?
Yeah.
Right? Went in there and went online and immediately learned that, soy sauce is not gluten-free.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? but she uses soy sauce all the time, right? So how do you replace, what do you replace that with? And it was, now you got to find gluten-free soy sauce. So she made sure that was in the cupboard. Same thing with Worcestershire sauce, because she does a lot of home cooking, right? So, so she made sure she had that. She learned very quickly what other things were in there and how to see and how to read the labels. So she learned that very fast. That being said, she still is the concept of a cross-contamination. Like, she's not going to, I was an adult. She's not going to change her whole kitchen, her whole routine, to accommodate me when I'm not really there.
Yeah.
So
when you come over,
when I come home, so for like Christmas, like she always makes sure that she has either, or not make sure she has, but she has her regular stuff, her soy sauce, whatever, and the stuff that if we always have a conversation beforehand of what is the food that's going to be made. Should I bring something to replace something, right? Or if you've decided that breakfast on one morning is just going to be bagels and like a cute little cake, I should go get my own bagels, right? I should replace it with my own, like, what do I need to bring? Or she makes a conscious thought to the food to make sure all of the food is going to be gluten-free. On the flip side, for a charcuterie board, she doesn't always make sure all the crackers are gluten-free, but they generally stay separated. Okay. So there is risk when I go home of cross-contamination, like,
How do you prepare yourself for that, or do you kind of how does that? Just in case, let's say there is, right? If there wasn't.
Well, and that's
a good question here. Have you had exposure?
I had exposure this weekend, or this week, of something that between her and I didn't even think about.
Okay.
And and again, even I'm going to say it, but we don't know for sure if that's what it was. But it was cabbage rolls. And she gets cabbage rolls from a lady in town, and they're delicious. But there's nothing in cabbage rolls that's going to scream gluten.
Right.
But I got really sick probably a day and a half later. And that was the only thing that was okay. Neither of us really bothered to think about it. Right. And then she went back and found the pack, and there's no ingredients on the package because it's a locally made. And I'm trying to think of what would be in it. And the only thing I can think of is because it's homemade, maybe she uses Worcestershire sauce or soy sauce in it. Especially because we went to my sister-in-law's, and my sister-in-law and I went through every ingredient in her soup to make sure it would be good. And she went out of her way to make sure. But then it could have also been the crackers and the charcuterie board. Maybe some crumbs got stuck in cheese. And most of my family is pretty good with, I use one side of the cheese. They use the other side.
I see.
Like, they're all pretty good with that. Other than my dad forgets. He also mixes it up sometimes. Every once in a while I'll get it, can you have milk? But he was good enough to, like, this year he was injecting his meat, which I called for Worcestershire sauce. So he had texted me a few days earlier and said, do you have Worcestershire sauce? Can you bring it? And I said, Mom probably has some. And he goes, I can't find it. So at that point, then it's all right. Well, I'll make sure I find some that you can use. And somebody obviously told him, because he just in one ear and out the other. He makes no sense to him.
I'm sure probably a lot of us have relatives like that.
And it's not that it makes that he doesn't care. It's just it doesn't occur to him. Just because he's a man.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Or so with family-wise, for the most part, everybody's pretty good. I did get some pushback this year at our big family event, which we have 30, 40 people at for a week, and not a lot of options. And we can't just we don't generally go to a store and bring food back. It's usually everybody's got it pre-planned. And I tried to make it a little funny. We had some new people, so I had a little list that said, "Can Lia eat this?"
Oh, I love that.
And I sent it out. And I'm like, does it say?
A picture?
I don't have a picture. I think I still have it on my phone, actually.
I was like, you should probably send it to me.
I can. It's actually I got it off of the Celiac Canada Facebook group. Somebody else had done it, so I just flipped it around to make it relate to me. But I did get a little bit like that was a little pushy from some of my other relatives, and I was like, what else can I do, right? And because it did work out in the end, I had a number of private messages that said, "Here's what the meal we're planning," and because at this family reunion, because there's so many people, each family is responsible for one dinner for everybody and one breakfast.
Okay.
Right. So I did get a number of messages that said, "Oh, this is what I'm planning. Right. Here's what some of the ingredients are.
Yeah.
Or here's what so that did work, but I did get some pushback that was like, it's a little pushy. And I was like,
But you know what? Like that's also an interesting point that you bring up. Like, do you find that if let's take the family and coworkers, not coworkers, but friends out of the equation. But what about coworkers? Say like, are they sensitive enough? Like, are they sort of?
yes, my coworkers are ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they look at it right now as a joke. And not that, like, they know, most of them that I work with right now are pretty good about it, but everything is humorous. Right? So I'll get one guy coming around, he goes, "Oh, my wife made meatballs," and he'll come by me and go, "Oh, Lia, meatballs, would you like one?" And I'll be like, "Well, I need to see the ingredients." He goes, "Oh, never mind. Oh, so difficult." But
How do you? Is that like? Are you okay with it?
that with these particular people, yes, because
In general, like, how would you?
in general, if it was somebody I didn't know well, it would be kind of more like, okay, that's a little,
Like a little insensitive.
yeah.
What I'm trying to get is like, what about like other people? Because I found from personal experience going to, let's say, birthday parties, and I've had a recent experience with my son. Somebody who is aware of his allergies did not think through it all in terms of.
Well, I try to look at it as it's not anyone else's responsibility besides my own.
Okay.
And so when I do events like that, like I go to parties or I'm going somewhere else, I try to take that step and say, hey, like what's the food situation? Or I will bring my own stuff with me. Because again, it is not anyone else's responsibility except my own. And it's like lowering my expectations. Now, if somebody has thought it through, and that is a huge, like, that's a win, right? Or if somebody has taken the time to then ask those questions or ask the right questions, that is such a nice feeling. But yeah, it's nobody else's responsibility but my own. I do have my best friend growing up. She's gone through all of this with me. She doesn't think about it every day, but her daughter's the same way. They're so concerned about me that if I go out and I'm gonna go sit somewhere, like her daughter is jumping up there asking the right questions, and she wants to make sure, and that's just those are the nice feelings. Or they always want to make sure that if I'm coming over, they've got something for me or something like that. Like, so it really depends. For me, it's nobody else's responsibility except my own. But it is nice when other people are aware and make the effort, which is in any case.
Yeah.
And I know I'm guilty of it as well. My sister-in-law is lactose intolerant, and sometimes I forget. Right, and so it took us a while to get there, where I'd either remember that she's lactose intolerant, or that did you take your lactase pills so that you can have this, or. So sometimes even I forget that because I am not lactose intolerant. Thank all my lucky stars, because I would not survive without cheese.
And pickles.
And yeah, that is something else. Pickles never hurt me.
I see.
They never hurt my stomach. They've been my friends since day one. My mom has told me before that when kids start eating hard foods, she goes, pickles. That's what I ate. And she goes, that's what you would eat every day. Like,
It's your go-to.
I have a thing about pickles and cheese, because again, those things never hurt my stomach.
Huge thank you to Lia for sharing her story. Make sure to tune in for an eye-opening conversation in our next episode with Dr. Mark Wulczynski, whose research focuses on celiac disease, fiber, and how the gut microbiome responds to gluten-free diet. See you then. on Life Without Gluten.
Over 3 million Canadians, approximately 7.5 of our whole population, affected by food allergies. Now, that is according to Food Allergy Canada. And approximately 33 million Americans have at least one food allergy, which is about 9.5% of the entire population. What is happening?